It finishes Tottenham 4, Aston Villa 1. Gab and Frank are still with us. Just take a look at how things look then at the top of the table. Villa remains 6. Spurs now close the gap to 2 points to 4th place, which is occupied, of course, by a number of teams. And as we all expected, Nottingham Forest sitting 3rd in the table.
Frank, did you predict that one?
Oh, yes, yeah, I bet you predicted it.
Nottingham Forest.
No, but I did predict that Liverpool would win the league, Craig. It was going to be what would be next.
Yeah, yes, we're going to see that.
If Tottenham could bottle that second half, but this is what we have this discussion, it seems, on a weekly basis at the moment, that it almost seems like it takes them to take that punch in the nose to get started. A half-time team talk, a rollicking, change in tactics, a change in pace, whatever. They were very lacklustre, and I'm being kind to them in the first half against a very well organised Villa side who could have taken the second goal with Ollie Watkins, as you said, but second half it was just the Tottenham have come to know under Ange Postecoglou. It was pacey, there was good passing. They picked up a few injuries as well. You mentioned Richarlison. They were already without Van de Ven. Romero had to go off. So they had some injury issues to deal with during the game. Ben Davies came on, very experienced, did a great job. But the whole stadium gasped when Heung-min Son went off, because Tottenham started the second half so well, and you kind of felt that it was about rest and recuperation and it was about the long game. But when you're in a game against an opponent who is, I'm going to say, pretty much your equal, Villa are just a little bit better in terms of the last 12 months, still to take one of your talisman, your captain off. We're at 55 minutes. There's a long season. He's got a better squad than he had last year. But it was one of them. Wow, he's just created the goal. Tottenham are on the front foot. What the hell? But that's why the manager gets paid the big bucks, to make these decisions. You can't argue with it. It worked wonders in the end. He got a rest. They scored 4 great goals. Maddison got on, got a bit of confidence. Dragusin got some more experience playing in that back line, which has been, few and far between for him. Obviously, Van de Ven's a big miss for any team. I mean, if Romero's out any longer, I'm not sure how they would cope. But it was better, but it was certainly not a great day at the office for Aston Villa.
No.
Morgan Rogers, when they get Morgan Rogers on the ball and he gets turned in that number 10 position, people just bounce off this young lad. He's so strong, but they weren't able to get him in the game often enough. They made too many mistakes at the back, and they just had an off day by their standards. But you know what? He's got enough money in the bank.
Yes.
Between his league position and the Champions League, that I'm not surprised that these things happen, because every now and again this happens to Aston Villa.
Gab, you've got Spurs coming into this game, the Premier League. Obviously, they beat City midweek, but they lost against Crystal Palace last weekend, and they put in that sort of performance in the second half. The million-dollar question is, how can you find consistency within this Spurs team to put in more of those sort of showings?
And it's a great question. I mean, I think he's moving towards it. I mean, you remember the game, I think it was against West Ham, where they kind of got battered in the first half in terms of the run of play, and then he sent on Pap Sarr at halftime. So you had sort of Sarr, Bissouma, and Kulusevski. Something that was a bit unnatural for him because he liked having Maddison and Kulusevski. So he made that adjustment. And again, in this game, I mean, Craig's mentioned it there. Heung-min Son, he was never going to play more than 60 minutes. Whatever. It still takes large stones to take him off in those circumstances. When you know that if Villa get a couple goals on the break, you lose 3-1, and then you look like a fool again. So I think he has to sort of balance making perhaps slightly more orthodox choices, which I think he has made of late and been rewarded for them, with what made him special in the first place. So, giving those players the freedom to go and trust each other, with the fullbacks coming inside and Kulusevski running from the middle of the park, all those things that he does. It's a tough balancing act, and I think he'll get more buy-in from the players if he can get together a string of results.
It's just continuing this momentum, trying to keep it going, Frank, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what they have to try to do. And it's why maybe he took that decision to put Son out and to rest him. And I don't want to create any conspiracy theory, but really, a guy who just gave a beautiful assist, who's not injured, is so important, he's your captain, and you put him out, something was wrong when he decided to do that for me. I saw that, I said, wow, whoa, what's going on? Something is going on. Maybe they had an argument on the field, maybe something in the dressing room. Something is going wrong because you don't get rid of a player like that in that momentum. But overall, it was right. So let's see how it works. I think Son won't say anything because he's not that kind of player. But yeah, overall, they have to keep on going. But as you mentioned and as you asked Gab about, the consistency is not there. The first half was awful. It could have been worse. They could have been 2-0 down, and it would have been a different game. So Postecoglou still has to work very hard on making his team good for 90 minutes, which is far from being that.
You got to give a lot of credit to Brennan Johnson, haven't you? And we talked in the studio about a month ago, and it was you said to me, he's been getting absolute.
He took him off social media. He took himself away from all of that, and his form since has been brilliant.
In all fairness to the manager, he's not made it. Maybe his options, Timo Werner, are kind of limited in terms of his end products. Generally terrible. He got a good goal in midweek, but as a rule of thumb, Werner's end product has not been good enough. And he said to Brennan Johnson, it seems to me, go out there and play through it. Play your way back into confidence. The only way it comes, you don't get confidence in training. If you get battered by the fans and the manager takes you out the team, you can train as well as you want. From a Monday to Friday, you don't get any confidence because you still have to step back on that field and face some of those same fans and face that criticism. And the only way that it goes away is by performances. Now, he's quite a young man coming down from Nottingham into London, and I wasn't expecting him to play over the course of the time he's been at Tottenham as much as he has. I thought he was going to be more of a guy that's coming off the bench, but he superseded those expectations. And I think he's still learning the game, but to be understanding he's getting himself in the back post and timing those runs to get on the end of the goals, like the goal that he got today, is brilliant. If you only stick two fingers up to some of these morons that spend their whole life just abusing people online, then the way Brennan Johnson is going about it is absolutely the way to ram it down their stupid throats.
Aston Villa and Spurs, of course, very much in the fight to finish in the Champions League once again next season. Pretty tough to call when it comes to 10 matches in as to how this title is going to play out.
Well, I think we know one thing.
That Nottingham Forest maybe won't
Although I now have a bet with my son.
Oh, yes? Who's a Nottingham Forest fan?
Who was at the game against West Ham on Saturday. And he said to me, where do you think, and I know this is not a Forest discussion, but sorry for interrupting. He said, where do you think Forest are going to finish? And I said, 14th or below.
Okay.
That was at the weekend.
Right. How much have you bet?
Not much.
No.
Well, it's been a great start, clearly, and avoiding relegation is the first thing, but, I think they will be closer to 14th than where they are.
Out of the results that we saw from Liverpool, City, Arsenal, which was the biggest one for you?
The biggest surprise?
The most significant one?
Oh, I think Liverpool winning. Well, I mean, Arsenal was always going to be a relatively tough game at Newcastle. They had almost, a few of the guys were back, so he decided not to play Ben White at right back and continue with Partey. So it was a strong Arsenal side, make no bones about it. They just did not play well. They did not. And I think Arteta's sort of...
he said, look, we deserve to lose.
Yeah, he acknowledged that. No excuses, no referees, no conspiracies. They just did not play well. And Newcastle did, particularly Anthony Gordon and one or two others. Liverpool were on a bit of a knife edge. Brighton could have had 2 or 3 before half-time, right? So that was a big win for them. But I think it was a surprise to me that City lost, even with all their injuries, against Bournemouth.
There's a lot of minutes here. And I just wonder, in a game like this, he's not somebody who likes making a ton of substitutions. He's not somebody who likes making a ton of early substitutions. In a game like this, where, and he said so himself, Newcastle forced us to play the game that they wanted to play, and they've got physicality and intensity and size. And, it's not like Arsenal are a bunch of munchkins, but you understand his point. Maybe this was a game where if you'd had players who were maybe a little bit fresher, if maybe you had used your squad differently, maybe built your squad differently. Now, I know that they've had injuries. Obviously, Odegaard's still out, but and Timber, only just come back. Calafiori out, Tomiyasu out. But I just wonder about that, about the load management. I think this season, with the way these fixtures are so congested, especially this year, I think it's going to be a big part of a manager's job to figure out how to dole out those minutes so that in a game like this one where the other team out hustles you, you can match them for intensity. And if you do that, you've got more quality. And then you've got a shot at winning the game.
Chelsea away, obviously, next weekend for Arsenal for the international break. Of those results, Frank, which one do you want to talk about?
Well, I can see that City had a bad result, but last year we were seeing the same story where, they started to react in December. They made some bad games, they lost some games, and they came back and they won the title. So, burying City will be a big mistake, that's for sure. Doing the same from Arsenal I would say the same. It's like every team's are making mistakes. Remember Liverpool losing at home against Nottingham Forest. Even if we can see right now, it's not really a surprise. But really, every team's going to lose points, and it's going to be a big battle. And I'm pretty sure that Arsenal won't give up. It's not the way the player thinks. It's not the way the manager thinks. So they're going to try to come back. They're going to fight until the end. And it's really up to City, for me, to Manchester City, to see how they're going to step up like every season they do, or the past 2 seasons at least, how they step up and win the titles. If they don't react in December, that might be an open space for another team. Otherwise, it's still going to be City.
I think that's the only thing we do know, really, is that if you're going to win this league, you will have to finish above Man City come the end of it, because they will be in the shake-up. They will be putting a run together at the business end, because that's what they do under this manager. They're not going to be missing all these players for all of the season. And I think the other questions are certainly about the other two. The questions we just talked about Arsenal and what Gab's talked about. And then the big question with Liverpool again is very similar to last year. Can they keep it going?